Hi there. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about drawing on toned paper with Conte crayons. So in your General's drawing kit, there are two Conte crayons that comes in this kit, and they are these two sticks over here. There's a white and a red, and we would use these two in conjunction with your charcoal for this drawing. Now I've also suggested that you get a box of Conte crayons if you choose. This is just optional, and basically it comes with 4 different colors in this box. And mine are a little bit of a mess, but you can still kind of see the colors that are in here. We have the same red tone and the white, but it also comes with a black Conte crayon and like this kind of a brown tone as well. So it gives you a couple more options with Conte crayons. Again, this is optional. You can do your entire drawing project using just these 2 Conte crayons and your charcoal sticks that are in your drawings kit. Before I start with the drawing demonstration, let's talk a little bit about the paper. Now, I have a variety of different tones of paper available for our class. They're all kind of in these neutral tones. We've got different shades of gray and dark and light shades of tan. I'm going to set these aside and show you the example sheet that I'm going to use. Now, I do want to point out that all of these are different tones of Canson Mi-Tone paper, and that actually comes in a huge variety of colors. If you go to the art store, you'll see just a rack full of different colors of this paper. But I've selected just a few natural or neutral shades for this particular drawing. And all of their papers actually do have 2 surfaces. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but when you pick up your paper, you'll be able to feel one side that's smoother and one side that's rougher. There isn't a right or wrong side of this. It really just depends on whether you want the texture of the paper to show through in your drawing. So the rougher side will have more texture, and then the smoother side will have a little bit less texture in your drawing. For my example today, I'm going to use this sort of a soft, warm gray tone. I believe it's called Oyster. And I'll use just the Conte crayons that are available in our kit. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out the red, the white, and I'm also going to need the charcoal sticks as well. The willow and the compressed charcoal. In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to create a value scale using the Conte crayons on the tone paper, and then just a few little drawing techniques as well. Now let's talk briefly about Conte crayons. So these are compressed sticks of pigment that are held together with a waxy binder. That's what makes them crayons. I don't want you to get them confused with oil pastels, which are really, really oily, and they have a different kind of a working process to them. But these Conte crayons are really more like working with waxy crayons instead of oils. I'm going to set these aside, and I just want you to go back to thinking about creating a value scale. Remember that on white paper, if you create a value scale from 1 to 6, your darkest tone is the number 6, and that's the darkest, blackest black that you can get with whatever tool that you happen to be drawing with. And then the whitest white is just the pure white of the paper. So when you're working on tone paper, this kind of changes things a little bit because the tone itself is going to fall within one of these mid-ranges. Now, you're not really going to know which one it is until you actually start creating the value scale. So what I like to do is go ahead and start with the blackest black to see how dark I can get with the tools that I have, which is going to be with this compressed charcoal. And then I'm going to use the white Conte to get the whitest white on this side, and then we're going to find where those tones meet in the middle. Now I do want to point out that we've been working with 6-point value scales up until this point, but this time I've created a 7-point value scale. That way I create 6 points with the tools that I'm working with, and then there's always one that's left blank. Again, we're using the color of the paper, just like we would with white paper. We're using the tone of the paper itself as one of the tones in our value scale. Now, as I was working, I thought that the color of the paper was actually going to fall right in the middle, but it turned out that I could get more values out of the charcoal, and then not quite as many with the Conte crayon. So this paper is a little bit on the lighter side of the value scale, so it's a number 3 and not a number 4. I want to talk to you a little bit about some drawing tips and tricks when it comes to drawing with charcoal and Conte crayon on toned paper. When you have an area that's too dark with charcoal, naturally you're going to take an eraser and erase away the part that's too dark, making it lighter. So if you want something dark to go lighter, you're using the eraser. Now, when you have some areas that are too light and you want it to go darker, the natural inclination is to take one of these dark tools and draw on top of it. But no, in this case, it is also to use the eraser, because as you're erasing the white Conte crayon away, you're taking it darker along the value scale. So in both cases, you're using the eraser to get to the tone of the paper. Something that you definitely want to avoid is creating these mid-tones where you have charcoal and Conte crayon kind of coming together, because what you create is sort of this muddy tone that has a little bit of a flatness to it. It takes a lot of the life out of a drawing when you have some sort of this muddy gray tone, when if you look back at your value scale, the tone you're really trying to get to is one of these two. And remember to let the paper itself shine through in some areas, and try to stay away from mixing the dark and light drawing tools. Use your eraser to bring it to the midtones and let some of that paper really shine through. Let that become part of the drawing itself. Now, another tip I want to talk to you about is when it comes to drawing with charcoal and Conte crayons to create the look of drapery. When a lot of students start drawing drapery, you're going to start looking at the lights and the shadows, and you're going to start creating some lines and some curves. And you'll probably start blending them in. Now remember, you're going to look for some highlights to where the areas are being hit by the light. So you might start adding some light tones. And what's going to happen is you're going to end up with a drawing that starts to look like this. You're going to see a bunch of stripes. It doesn't look right. Something about it is just, there's just nothing about it that looks like drapery. You'll get to this point, you're going to feel a little dejected, but what I want you to do is just keep working at it, because this is the part where you start thinking, none of this is looking right at all. I don't think I'm doing this right. But you are. As long as you keep paying attention to where the dark areas are and where the light areas are, you're going to create those illusions that you see with your eyes. But what you really have to do is just keep working at it. And the more you keep working at it, the more these illusions will start to come alive. Something that I really want you to pay attention to are the differences between the soft lines that gradually go from light to dark, and then the harsh lines where there are folds that are distinct and separate from each other. So make sure you distinguish those, but don't get too down about what you're seeing on the page when at first things don't look right. Just keep working at it, and you'll slowly kind of peel away. It's like peeling away an onion skin, and you'll find that drawing underneath. When you're working on the Conte crayon drawing on toned paper in our class, I want you to focus on creating the drawing using just the white Conte crayon and either black charcoal or the black Conte crayon. So just blacks and whites, focusing on this value scale to create the bulk of the drawing. Now, when you're finished with the drawing, you can reach for any colored Conte crayons that you might have, whether it's the brown or the red, and think of them as ways to embellish your drawing in a way that makes certain areas pop. Now keep in mind that these also have tonal values within themselves. So think about where that tonal value falls on your value scale and where this one might fall on the value scale. And remember to use them accordingly. Think of them as tones and not as coloring tools, because you're not using them to color in the picture, but to add some highlights here and there. So you might just bring in a little bit of the red here, maybe a little bit here, or you might want to choose to use the brown a little bit. And just remember that it is part of the tonal value of the drawing and not a way of coloring anything in. And when you add certain areas like that, where there's just like a hint of a color, it makes that area really pop. So just keep in mind that whatever you add some of that tonal color to, it's going to bring it forward in your finished image.